Now we're on to the Aeon card. The Aeon card is one of these tricky cards to understand, and the easiest way to remember this card is to remember that this is the card of discernment. If you have gone through the Fool, all the way through the lessons of the dark cards, popped yourself out the other side, reworked your entire world through the Star, had the final test of the Moon, had the exaltation of the Sun, what you will have is wisdom and discernment, which means that should a similar situation arise again, you won't fall for it. That you have finally figured out some things, and so you won't bite the hook anymore. It's kind of like when you really finally embody something and really understand something, then you never get caught by that pattern ever again. And then what's amazing is all those types of people or situations actually disappear. They don't even come back around. They just no longer exist in your world, because sometimes these reflections show up in our life in order to teach us these lessons of discernment. And so sometimes I like to think when the struggles are happening in my life that I clearly still haven't learned that particular lesson yet. So what you've got here are these blue arms that are the goddess Nuit. And then behind her, sitting there, is actually her mate, which is Hadit. And together they are forming something new, and they are protecting an egg that is birthing a new way or a new concept. So Horus is actually the child that's in the front that's got his finger in his mouth, and he's not really quite ready to take on the authority and the rule of his father, but he's in the maturing process and he is starting to have more and more awareness. Then you see Horus seated in the background, encased in a bubble. And this one is actually much older and wiser and more powerful, and he's now matured into who he was meant to be. So you've got the younger Horus that is immature, but maybe alive. And you've got the older Horus that is wise and consistent. And I like to think of this as emerging between the top dog within us and the underdog within us, that we actually find a balance between those two sides and allow something to be born. So you will also see that there are these symbols of the heartbeat and the EEG on Nuit's wristbands, on the blue goddess's wristbands that are around the egg. And you also see under the wings are a man, a woman, and a child still encased in a womb. And so this shows that there's still new life being created, and humanity is still growing and evolving, but it's a trick to bring the conscious, the unconscious, and the higher conscious into balance so we can continue to grow and evolve.